Right, joining us on the line is Sam Avery, and his tour, The Learner Parent, is touring around the country and is coming to southwest London and the Epsom Playhouse on the 10th and 11th of November. First things first, Sam, how are you?
I'm really great.
Thank you so much for coming to talk to us on the phone. Just quickly, of course, The Learner Parent is a podcast, it's a blog, it's a book, and now you're on tour with the same brand name. I mean, when did this kind of whole brand start?
It started when the kids were born, really. Like, 3.5 years ago, the 3.5. I've got twin boys who are 3.5 now. Like, probably a bit of information, feeling about the upcoming fatherhood, and it was, every day was completely different, and there was new things happening. So I was making loads of notes, and I was thinking, if I'm lucky, I might get 5 minutes of material out of this on stage one day. And someone said to me, well, if you're going to write it down, you might as well, why don't you do a blog? And I was like, I don't want to do a blog, because the word blogger, it always made me want to be sick in my mouth. I don't know what, the image of bloggers that I had. But I thought, well, I might as well try it out, stick it online, and then if people laugh at it online, then it's probably funny enough to put on stage. But the blog just took a life of its own, really, pretty early on. I was posting sort of every day, the first sort of 3 months when the boys were little, because like babies sleep for so much when they're first born. I had loads of free time all of a sudden, and all this new material. And I suppose I didn't want to forget about anything, and I was just blogging all the time. But yeah, but now it's got out of hand now, and I'm doing all these other silly things like this tour, which is so exciting.
Yeah, and so what was your comedy style or kind of career like before the whole Learner Parent came along?
Well, I mean, my style's not really changed. I just, I'm kind of observational storytelling, stand-up, kind of conversational style stand-up, really. I don't tend to do one-liners. It's more like telling stories. That stayed the same, but I suppose the gigs I was just doing the comedy circuit, so all the comedy clubs around the country, doing them. When my kids were born, I didn't want to be away too much, so I started doing much more gigs in the Northwest, and then obviously, as things has grown, it's allowed me to do the tour that an amazing buzz, because you instead of going on stage in front of 100 people who care if you're there or not, you're going on stage in front of 300 or 400 people who are all absolutely buzzing to be there, and they're all there to see you, which just makes the whole experience a lot more pleasant and a lot more fun. And then you do longer on stage, so it's just great. I feel really lucky to have been given this audience, really.
Now, Sam, obviously based on your accent and the fact that I know you're from Liverpool, and I saw a few interviews with kind of comedians who are, I hate using the word northern, but obviously from northern areas, and there is this kind of stigma about comedy where there seems to be so many kind of London-based, posh, public school comedians. Do you kind of recognise that yourself? Is there a bit of you that wants more kind of different voices in comedy?
I do get on board with that argument, and I do think when it comes to the Edinburgh Fringe, I think there's a lot of reviewers that look at the noses at northern comedians who, quote unquote, only make the audience laugh their head off for an hour, as if that's dead easy. And I think there's a little bit more emphasis put on something a bit different. But if you put yourself in the shoes of the reviewer, how much comedy have you watched over the years? And you want to see something different, you want to see something new. So I try not to get too worked up about it. I've always had a good time there. I just focus on what I'm doing. I don't really think too much about that, because ultimately you've just got to make sure what you're doing is something that you're proud of and that you're happy with.
Now, I want to talk about something a little bit away from comedy now. I saw on your bio that you toured with Motorhead and Ice-T, so you didn't, you weren't always in the kind of comedy blogging sphere.
No, this is going back 20 odd years now. I was a kid. I mean, I was 17 and I was in this like metal band, and we got a record deal when I was 17. So we were on top of the Pops, and we did this tour with Motorhead. We did all these big venues. It was absolutely ridiculous. And then it all fell apart. By the time I was 19, it was all dead. The record label had drugged us. The manager had stolen the money, and we were all just disillusioned with life.
And what was your role in the band?
I was the bass player. Yeah, just at the back, really. Just plodding along, it was good fun at the time, but we were just kids, really. So it is weird. It feels like that happened to someone else because it was so long ago.
Thank you so much for joining us.
No worries. Thanks for having us.